Welcome to the next episode of HR Mavericks. I'm your host, Garrett Justice, and today I am joined by David Blake, who's the Human Resources Manager at K2 Electric in Arizona, in the Phoenix area. David, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So great to have you on the show today. Super excited to jump in here. But you know, you've listened to some other episodes. You know how it goes. We always like to hear just a little bit more about our guests to kind of set the stage before we jump in. So tell us a little bit more about your background and also what your company K2 Electric does.
Sure. So I've been in the construction industry since 2012. Kind of fell into human resources. At the time, I kind of started at the bottom, and I needed an office job. I was going to school, getting a business degree, and I was getting close to finishing. And I was like, well, I should probably get a job that relates to my degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's an ad looking for a part-time call clerk, and I knew I'd have to start over. So I applied. I walked in. They hired me on the spot. And I spent like a year doing file clerk stuff, scanning papers, filing, of course, getting coffee in the afternoon for everybody. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I got my start. And then after about a year, my boss kind of pulled me aside and said, well, what is it that you really want to do? And, I told her, I said, I want to do what you do. And she was a human resources manager. And from that point on, she kind of took me under her wing, and she became more of a mentor than a boss. And we had a really great relationship, working relationship, and taught me everything I know. And then, I really love human resources. Being able to help employees take care of their families brings me a lot of joy and satisfaction in the work that I do. I've been with K2 Electric for about a year and a half now. I joined about a month before COVID started.
It's a hard time to join.
Yeah, for sure. So I still feel like a brand new employee in some respects because, for the first full year or so, I mean, that's all I was doing was dealing with COVID. And
yeah. So
now I finally have a little bit of breathing room. I can focus on, other things that I was brought on to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. And K2 Electric is just mostly residential electric company, small residential electric company in Arizona. Is that right?
No, so we do commercial electrical work.
Okay.
We're doing a lot of schools and warehouses. We do medical care facilities as well. But yeah, we have majority of our work is in the Phoenix metro area, and we also have a small division in Tucson, Arizona.
Got it. And so if I remember right, you said just over 100 employees or so?
Yeah, altogether, we have 140 employees at the moment.
Wow. And then you and one other person on the HR team wearing all of those HR hats. Is that right?
That's right.
That's crazy. Yeah. I know. I think that, a lot of our listeners are in the exact same boat. Small business HR people, you got to wear a lot of hats. So that's awesome context. What I want to know is, before we jumped on here, you told me first, before you got into HR, you were a cabinet maker. So what's the biggest difference between being a cabinet maker and now being a HR manager at the company you're at now?
Well, I had to buy all new clothes. Clothes I wore back then don't fit. My waist size has grown a little bit.
I know how that goes. It's a little different when you sit at a desk, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're going out to eat. There's food readily available. At the last place I worked at, there was a free candy machine. So every time I walked by, I'd pull candy. Which is a perk and a curse at the same time, right?
That's right.
But I think biggest difference for me is there's a lot of similarities. A cabinet maker, I was part of a team. We worked together to accomplish goals. HR manager, still part of a team. We still have goals and still working together, still having that camaraderie. It's just that, it's not as labor intensive.
Yeah. There you
still a
go.
lot of critical thinking. So I find joy in both.
Good. Well, that's awesome. Well, you kind of answered the question that I like to start with is why did you choose to pursue a career in HR? I know you said you kind of fell into it just based on, you saw this, you needed a job, you saw this ad and you kind of progressed through that. But so I guess the question I'll ask you instead is, why have you chosen to stay in HR throughout your career? What did you like about it?
Sure. Like I said earlier, I mean, I really enjoy being able to help the employees. We're all humans. We all have things going on, and just being able to be a small part in helping them, want to get a job, being able to provide for their family, and seeing them grow and develop. I hire a lot of brand new electricians and watching them progress and learn new skills, and then moving into leadership positions. I get a lot of satisfaction in that because I was able to help. Um, you know, it, I, I'm shy by nature, but get me one on one and things go pretty well. But just again, developing those relationships, and they're employees, but they're people too, and I really like to help take care of them.
I love that. I think that resonates probably with so many HR people out there. That's what either got them into it or has kept them in HR is again the focus on the people, helping people just be more productive, be more happy at work and outside of it. So I think that's a noble mission, and we need really great HR people like you to help accomplish that at all these small local businesses where most people are employed. So, well, with that, I want to transition into our topic a little bit. I know as you and I discussed what we should talk about today, you kind of proposed this idea of 4 steps that you have to onboarding new hires effectively. So I want to dive into those specific steps and learn a little bit more about how that has helped you to onboard new hires. But I guess first, to really set the tone, I'm curious why you think onboarding is so important for setting the tone for new hires as they join. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So onboarding is critical. It all comes down to making a really great first impression, right? First impressions are everything, even from like the interview all the way to the first day of work and beyond. There's a lot of different studies out there or statistics you can find on the internet, but the vast majority of employees who leave a company leave within like the first month, the first 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's all based on that first impression. If you don't deliver on what you outlined, if their expectations aren't met, they're going to leave.
Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. It in my opinion is one of the most important, activities that an HR person can work on and a company can really get right together with, HR and management, everyone else, because of exactly what you said. It sets the tone for, the rest of their journey with your company and that experience that they'll have. And so making sure that that's tight is super important, but it's also hard when you're at a small company, right? And you're on a 2-person HR team. And so, how do you find the time to prioritize something like onboarding when there's so many other things that are pulling at your time?
Sure. Prioritization is critical, right? I do have a lot of duties and responsibilities, but recruiting is probably one of my number 1 priorities, that and payroll. I got to have employees and I got to make sure they get paid. And so everything else kind of settles in place. And it also helps to have a great team. So even though it's a 2-person HR department at K2 Electric, I have great participation from managers and supervisors, and we all work together to make sure that, we have the right people. Because if we don't, I mean, our business would not be successful.
Yeah, I think that's great. And one thing I really liked about what you said is you're working together with the management there at the company, right? And I think that that's such a key piece. If onboarding is just HR and management's not really involved in that, it's going to be less effective than when it's a team effort and HR acts as that business partner to management at your company to really design something that's impactful for those new hires that everyone is bought into, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, in my eyes, HR is kind of like the glue to keep everything together, but it's other people that are, dictating what they want to see. It's them that know the roles inside and out and what they need in an employee to be successful. And I just kind of execute the plan and make sure that things stay on track.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. Well, I want to jump into these 4 steps that you have for more effective onboarding, because I think it's going to be great. So this first step that we talked about is setting up for success. So tell us a little bit more about step 1, setting up for success.
Sure. So I guess what I mean by setting up for success is, the separation is in the preparation. I like football. My favorite team is the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson's favorite sayings, but
I just drafted him on my fantasy team. I hope he does good this year.
Me too. I had him on my team last year. I got him on my team this year. I just hope he doesn't falter in the second half. Cost me a championship. But anyway, I mean, it's so true. I mean, you have to prepare for the employee's first day. You got to make sure that, if they have uniforms, like those are all ready. If they have computers or phones, making sure all that's ready on day 1, because there's nothing worse than coming to work on your first day and you just sit around twiddling your thumbs because you can't work. So again, and then like making sure that the person's manager is able to be there on their first day.
Yeah.
I've had situations where I have a new hire starting and the manager doesn't make it.
Yeah.
And more often than not, it leaves a bad impression and then they leave.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So a lot of it is about, there's a checklist of items, right, that a new hire should have ready for a new hire before they even come. And so making sure that you invest the time up front before they're there to make sure that things are set up and in the right way is really that key for setting them up for success. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I mean, it also, like, if you come off as you're organized and you have a plan in place, again, it just makes that impression all the more memorable. Because if you're running around scrambling the day of, I mean, again, they're just going to view the company as chaotic and they don't know.
Yeah. Well, and it shows that you care and that you've prioritized them, right, and thought ahead for them. So it really helps to build that trust. So that's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So good. So step 1, setting up for success, making sure you're prepped, you're ready there. You have, everything ready for that person when they start. Their manager's going to be there. Everyone's aligned on the same page. Step number 2 that you have is making a great first impression. Tell us more about how you do that.
Again, making sure everything's ready, but then, making sure you introduce them to everybody on the team. Depending on the position, of course, I like to have the manager take them out to lunch or breakfast or coffee or whatever the first day. Just kind of first days can be stressful. And again, just having that one-on-one time and really showing them that you're invested. Also swag. I mean, everyone likes swag, right? So it helps them feel part of the team. You don't have to go overboard or crazy, but just making sure that they feel part of the team, right? If everybody uses, your company's notebooks for meetings and they don't have one, I mean, they kind of feel left out.
Good. So do you schedule any of those first day meetings or lunches? Do you kind of leave that up to the manager? How do you typically approach that?
I kind of leave it up to the manager. Yeah. I mean, they have a schedule and they have things that they have commitments. So I try and everybody knows that, hey, it's the first day. I probably need to block some space out. But yeah, I kind of leave it up to the manager and let them run the show.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. So giving them a time to just meet people, connect with them, go out to lunch, give them some swag so they feel, again, part of the team,
Yep.
whether it's a shirt or a notebook or whatever it is, right?
Yep. Yep. And then I know we all get a ton of emails and we probably don't read all of them. I'm guilty of that. But another thing I do is like I send an announcement email,
Cool.
letting the team know that, hey, so and so starting. Let's give them a warm welcome. And then I copy the new hire on the email. And again, it just, like you said, it helps them know that we're super excited to have them join the team and that we care about them.
Yeah, I think that's such an important thing. It can seem like so small, but I just know, as when I've joined a new company in the past, when you have people that reach out and really welcome you, again, it just helps to show that they care, that they're thinking about you, that they're excited for you to join the team, that you're going to be a part of that team. And so a lot of times that can be just, something small, but I think that that's so important in helping really make that great first impression, like we're talking about.
Cool. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. So that's number 2. So first step was setting up for success, making sure you're prepared before they come. Step 2 was how do you make a great first impression from the get-go on that day 1. Step 3 that you have here is your training plan. So tell us more about the training plan.
Sure. So training plan, I mean, you can get as formal as you want, or you can be simple and just have some rough ideas of things you want to go over. But for us, we take our high payoff activities. Those are like the top 4 or 5 things that you should be spending 80% of your time and energy on.
Mm-hmm.
We take those, and then we also have our key performance indicators, and that tells you how successful you are at achieving your HPAs.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of use those 2 things and build a training plan.
Cool.
So for us, we're kind of on the simpler end. We have a spreadsheet and we kind of map out who's going to go over what. Like I said, we're all part of a team. So you might get trained by your manager, but you might go train with someone else on this task or something. So training is important. I mean, you hire the person because they're competent and they can do the job, but there's nuances to every company and every role that they might not be familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And again, when an employee comes on and there's no plan, you just kind of say, hey, figure it out. Typically it doesn't work out very well.
Yeah. One of the things I love about what you just said is you have, as a company, you've already kind of established KPIs, 4 KPIs of how you measure success and the 4 things that people should be spending the most time on. And then you organize the trainings around those things. What I love about that is it's probably then really clear for new hires, what do I need to do to be successful in this new role, because the training is tied so closely with those KPIs, which they'll be measured on later on. Is that right?
Yeah. That's exactly right.
I love that. I think that's such an awesome idea. Tell us more. What else do you include and make sure is included with that training plan?
Since we're a construction company, the majority of our workforce are electricians. So we do a lot of safety training as well. Mm-hmm. Our ultimate goal is for every person to be home with their families at the end of each workday. Jobs will get done with or without our crew, regardless. But again, we want to make sure everyone's safe.
Yeah.
We won't go home. So we do a lot of safety training. There's job specific training. And then there's other training as well, like, leadership training, other things as well. And it varies, based on the position and what they need to do. But it's not just job tasks, right?
Good. Yeah. I like that you're making it specific for the role as well. Right. And so it may vary a little bit depending on what you're hired to do. So I think that's awesome. So, okay. So let's recap real quick. Step 1, setting up for success, which we talked about, that preparation before someone joins and starts. Step 2 is how to make a first great impression, a great first impression, said that backwards. Step 3 is then the training plan and making sure that you have the right training in place. And I particularly love that you're organizing those trainings around the specific KPIs for those roles. And then step 4 is feedback. Tell us more about feedback.
Yeah. So in my experience, it takes a new employee upwards of a year before they feel fully acclimated, before they feel fully comfortable being able to make decisions on their own. And so being available and giving feedback readily helps them know where they're at. And, at least myself personally, I always like to know how I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if you get feedback once a year, that's a long time to wait. And
Right.
you don't always remember things that happened 10 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So just having regular meetings, whether that's, monthly, bi-weekly, whatever, just say, hey, these are the things we've gone over. How do you feel? Do you need more training on it? What can I do to make sure you're comfortable? Or again, just giving that immediate feedback if they do need a little bit of correction, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
people make mistakes, people learn, but taking those opportunities and learning from them.
Yeah, I love that. What role do managers play at your company in the feedback process versus HR? Is that something that's done together? Is there separate types of feedback that's given? Talk to us a little more about that.
Sure. So for our company, HR has pretty little involvement in the feedback part.
Mm-hmm.
Each employee meets with their supervisor every 30 days. For us, we're a goal-driven company. So we set out big goals and we meet
Mm-hmm.
every 6 months to set big goals. And then from there, we meet every 30 days and talk about like our progress and what we've done, what we plan to do next to achieve those big goals. And that's kind of how our company's set up, and it's worked really well for us. But yeah, HR, we just kind of make sure those meetings happen.
Yeah,
So
I think that's.
gentle
Go ahead.
reminders.
Yeah, those reminders I think is key. Is making sure it's organized. Managers know how to conduct them, and that they're happening is key for making sure everyone's on the same page, right?
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. Good. Well, this has been great. I love these 4 steps. I think that these are steps that every company can apply and follow in their own unique world that they're in. You can adapt these to your specific company or industry. And I think that these are really good guidelines for how to create effective onboarding for new hires. So one of the last questions I have for you is, as you have implemented these 4 steps, as you've hired new people at your company there, K2, what results have you seen from following these steps and really focusing on onboarding new hires effectively?
Sure. In my experience, if you have a good onboarding process, those employees tend to stay longer because they feel part of the team, they feel engaged, and they enjoy being at work. You know, not every employee is going to work or stay with the company for 20 years, but having to refill a position every 3 months, it doesn't make sense either.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if they feel part of the team, they feel included, it just really adds to the culture. And we typically have more production.
I love it. I think that's absolutely true. And there's so many statistics out there that, like we talked about at the beginning, that show that effective onboarding is one of the most important things to help set up an employee for success and retain them longer, right? Which there's a big financial impact for the business. And honestly, a lot of small businesses struggle with that retention piece, right? You have, especially the time we're at right now in the world and COVID and this what a lot of people are calling the great resignation, right? Where people are thinking about, do I want to stay in my current role or do I want to go somewhere else? And a lot of it goes back to did you set the stage in the right way with that onboarding? And did you continue with that throughout their experience with you as a company. Is that right?
Yeah.
Love it. So this is awesome. Well, David, I really appreciate you joining and sharing your tips with us today. Last question I have for you is separate from our topic, but it's one I like to ask all of our guests. And that is, at our company, Eddie, we really believe that building a healthy business is one of the most charitable things that you can do if you do it the right way, because you have the ability to impact the lives of your employees and their families and your customers and your community and everything else. So in your opinion, what's the quote unquote right way to build a healthy business today?
I might be a little biased, but I think the best way to do it is by taking care of your employees and your customers. Ultimately, it all comes down to relationships, right?
Yeah.
People tend to do business with the people they like. And then also, I think a big part is giving back to your community. That's my thoughts anyway.
I love it. I think that it's right. It's about people in the end. And so whether it's the people in your company, whether it's your customers, or whether it's about the people that your business impacts in the local community around, that's one of the reasons why I think we believe that, building that healthy business is one of the most charitable things you can do, because you can impact so many people's lives. So I love that. I think it's a great answer. Well, David, if there are listeners that want to get in contact with you or have follow-up questions on this topic, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, happy to connect on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to find me. If you email me, it might take me a little while to get in touch. So LinkedIn is probably best.
Awesome. Well, we'll drop David's LinkedIn profile in the description of this episode, so you don't have to worry about jotting it down right now. So David, thank you again so much for taking the time to spend with us today and sharing these tips on onboarding and everything else that you shared today. Hope you have a great rest of the day.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Thanks again for having me.